All of us growers want to improve our plant knowledge and growing skills, of course we do. But let's face it, at my age I'd rather walk on hot coals than start writing essays and doing exams again. So if, like me, you're not prepared to study for a degree in botany, is there a more fun way to do it without resorting to these traditional study methods? I think there is, and it's not just about watching YouTube. Let's get started. And we are in. Okay, so there's probably nothing you haven't actually heard of here that I'm going to talk about, but unless you sit down and actually put your mind to the task, I think there'll be a few routes to learning about plants that aren't actually front of mind for you now. And of course, you can use these methods to learn anything, not just about plants. So let's get cracking with them. So method number one, yes, watching videos is a part of it, but you do need to be intentional about it. Do a quick audit of your YouTube subscription list and toss out any that don't provide value, although I do recognise that sometimes you might just enjoy looking at pretty plants. I do too. But now that you're specifically thinking about those channels that focus on teaching you things, you can go looking for them. I asked my subscribers for suggestions, so I'll put links in the pinned comment below of a few example channels to get you started. Okay, so for learning method number two, I've talked about the value of books before, but finding books about tropical plants or houseplants that are easily accessible, not boring, and not botany textbooks isn't actually that easy, but they are out there. And the best part of this is that if time is short, and at my age that's definitely a thing, then there are apps out there that summarise non-fiction for you, giving you the main takeaways and cutting out all the fluff. I actually like and use one called Blinkist. I've talked about this before, as it's relatively cheap for an annual subscription, about £45, something like that, similar amount in dollars. But there is also short form, which is much more expensive. I don't know what that's like, and there are others as well. Now, I've found they really are a game changer in learning, and so far I've managed to get through over 100 books in just a few weeks, and it didn't feel like work. Believe it or not, it was actually fun. I enjoyed it. I can recommend several very engaging and informative books about plants, which I'll link to in the pinned comment below. So for method number three, if courses are your thing, there are plenty of free and paid courses about houseplants and tropical plants. So far that's not something I've actually explored much myself, but when I get the time and the money, I would like to try James Wong's houseplant course. And also there are YouTubers who provide courses. I think Summer Rain Oaks also provides a course, one or two other people. And if you go to course platforms like Skillshare and Udemy, and there are loads of platforms like that, you might find some courses on there too that are reasonably priced. I'll put some suggestions in the pinned comment below. So method number four, and maybe one you've not thought of before, just simply visiting botanical gardens can be a great way of learning about plants. I can only speak for the UK, but places like Kew Gardens and the various RHS gardens, they're bursting with exciting plants, and many of them are labelled, and in Kew's case, very often they have plaques of information in the glasshouses. The National Trust, also in the UK, has hundreds of gardens to look at, and if you're after free resources, there's the National Garden Scheme in the UK, where you can just turn up to domestic gardens on allocated days and take a look round, often in the company of the owner, who'll no doubt be thrilled to share their passion and knowledge with you. So for method number five, join a society. Now, when I got my greenhouse 4 years ago, this was my second greenhouse. My first one was over 20 years ago. I joined the Orchid Society because I was intending learning about orchids. I also joined the American Begonia Society, and no doubt there are Streptocarpus societies and cyclamen societies and societies for everything that we all grow. All great places for making connections, accessing resources, and of course, learning new stuff. So for method number six, a more passive way can simply be to follow people on Instagram or other social media. People like James Wong, Scott Zona bought his book, Matthew Pottage, the curator of RHS Wisley, and another one called Let's Botanise, which I've learned loads from, and of course me. So for method number seven, TV is another good source, although you'll usually find a huge bias towards animals rather than plants. I always find when people talk about wildlife, all they're talking about is animals. Plants are there as well, you know. Plant programmes also do exist, and in particular, not to be missed, is the BBC's Secret Life of Plants series. An absolute must watch for any plant lovers out there. One you can watch and rewatch and rewatch and still pick up something new. So for method number eight, listen to podcasts about plants and horticulture. There aren't actually many good ones out there, but I can recommend a few, which I'll put Yes, you've guessed it, in the pinned comment down below. Podcasts are great for me in particular because I spend so much time just driving around or gardening. Anything that requires an automatic action and no actual thinking, podcasts are great for. The time passes much more quickly, and of course you learn from it, and at the end of it you've made a net gain. You've made some money and you've learned something and you've done the job as well. Now for method number 9, this one is pretty obvious. Grow stuff, but try not to stick with your tried and tested types. Grow something new and different. It forces you to Google about them and it makes you learn new things. After all, you've got an investment to protect. Method number 10, try an app like Medium. This is where you can actually choose categories like houseplants or indoor plants or whatever it is that you're interested in, and it then feeds you articles about them. Now something like Medium is a paid app and it also pays the authors, so they give you their best stuff, so it really is worth a look. When you read these articles you can highlight sections, you can send those highlights to various other apps or to your email so that you can actually resurface them and put them into action. So you're not just reading and forgetting, you're actually doing something, you're putting it into a system and you are getting some value out of it. So for method number 11, get yourself a plant identifying app and use it even on those plants that you know. Now these apps have really improved over the last 12 months since ChatGPT really got going. Not only will they help you identify plants wherever you happen to find them, but they also give you good information about them. Now a quick search of the App Store gave me literally dozens of apps that do this. Now I've always got my phone on me, so whenever I'm out and about and I see a plant that I'm interested in, guess what? Take my phone out, take a photo of it, go onto one of the plant identification apps. I think at this point I'm using one called Plant Snap, and usually it gets it right. Not always, usually it gets it right. It's worth trying on some plants that you actually know, and it gives you the information and you can learn a bit more about it. Now of course this isn't an exhaustive list, but hopefully there are 1 or 2 methods of learning that you might not have thought of. The key is to make it fun and not a chore. Make yourself a 10-minute learning habit each day and set your phone to remind you. Surprising how creating a compounding habit like this can transform your knowledge. It isn't the setting of the goal that matters, it's the system you create to get you there over time that makes all the difference. A little bit like compounding interest in the bank. Let me know which your favourite method is down below in the comments. Any that you're going to try, and perhaps any I haven't thought of. And if you already use any of these methods, tell us all in the comments down below your own recommendations. So here's to a great year of growing our knowledge as well as our plants. And if you are into goal setting or would like to know what my plant goals are for the year, watch this video up here. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.